All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming out today to our media day. Obviously, a very, very exciting time for us. Getting into fall camp. We're 5 days in now. We've really had a strong fall camp so far. Been very, very pleased, as we've said many times, just with how both our players and our staff have handled this whole transition, and it's been even more apparent now that we've finally gotten out on the field to see the amount of work that we've gotten done. The competitiveness on all three sides of the ball has been great. It's been fun to see kind of the mix of our older guys that have been in the program that are starting to step up and really grow into being difference-making type of players, and then also this talented newcomer class that we have. Finally, having all these guys here, getting to see where they're at, and excited about the potential of that group as well. So we've had a great first few days. Guys have been very intense. It's been very competitive. I would say that in our competition periods, it's been very back and forth between our offense and our defense. No one side really dominating over the other, and if another side has a down period or a down few plays, they tend to respond, and I think that's a reflection of the leadership that we have on both sides of the ball, which has just, to me, been very apparent. I think it's much closer to where we were leadership-wise going into the 2015 season, if not maybe even a little bit further ahead as far as the amount of leaders and it being evenly distributed on the different sides of the ball and in the different position meeting rooms. One announcement we do want to make, Nick Basquin a couple days ago suffered a Achilles injury, non-contact injury in practice. He'll miss the season. Terrible injury for Nick, and definitely one that'll affect us as a team. There's no question about it. He was a great leader for us in that inside receiver room, guy that was a really clutch player for us last year that we felt like was ready to go on to a bigger role. And one of those injuries, that you just don't see, very often. So that was a tough one for us. Luckily, it's at a position where we do have some depth and some young guys that we feel like can step up and fill that void. But we'll get Nick rehabbed and look forward to getting him back next year. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into questions.
Who is there on your rotation? Michael, I would assume one, and who else? And can you comment on those guys?
Yeah, we've got some options. Michael will be option one there. He's had a really productive camp so far, and he'll definitely get the first crack at it, if you will. And then we've got some options. This just happened, I guess yesterday, and so we're still looking at guys like Lee Morris, a guy that's a walk-on from Allen that's really, really done a great job here behind the scenes, played in a few games for us and has played well. So Lee's had a really good camp. We think he can go in there and be one of those top 4 or 5 guys in the inside receiver rotation. And then Charleston Rambo's another interesting guy. We're looking at him at a few different positions right now, trying to figure out where best to use him. But I think he's another potential option as well.
How have CeeDee Lamb and Rambo looked so far?
Yeah, they're ahead of where most freshman receivers are. They still make some rookie mistakes, but the thing you see is they're both very competitive, and they're not hesitant. And they're playing against some pretty good players in our secondary. And so to see the way they've carried themselves, the way they've gotten better just here in the first few practices, they've got a long way to go. We'll never anoint anybody here until they go do it out on that field, but they've done a nice job, and they have shown the potential and the playmaking ability that we thought they had when we recruited them.
Lincoln, speaking of true freshmen, do you have a sense of how many of those guys may get on the field this year? And obviously we've known what Bob's take was on redshirting or not redshirting guys. How does your thinking fall in line or differ from what he's done in the past?
Sure. I think we'll have a number of true freshmen play. The position that's, probably got the most depth where, it will be toughest to see one is offensive line. But I would think at every other position there's going to be some opportunities for guys to play. And we've seen some flashes out of guys that if they continue to improve the way they have here in the first few days with the natural ability that they have, that we'll want to have them out there. When it comes to redshirting or not redshirting, it's something we tend to be aggressive with. I think if guys can can make plays to help us win games, then we're going to do it. We always ask two questions. One, are they ready? Most of them are ready physically. Maybe not to play at the elite level that they will later on in their career, but good enough to help us right now. The question is, are they mentally ready? Do they have the maturity to handle all of this? So if they're ready, then the next question is there a need for them? And if those two questions are yes, then we play them.
Are you fortunate, you feel fortunate maybe that you have a guy like Creed Humphrey with Alex Dalton going down, being a guy that could help you at center maybe in a pinch?
No question. That would be the one spot that we could potentially need some help from a young guy, and Creed, it's great that we had him here, in the spring. He's so much further ahead than where he would be, and he is unusually physically gifted for a guy his age. I mean, he could physically go in there right now and hold his own against most people.
You personally, you've been in charge of 50 guys at a time. Now you're in charge of twice that many. Is it at all overwhelming?
With the staff, it's about 3 times as many.
Has that been smooth for you? What's it been like?
It has been. It has been. Again, the people around me in the program have handled it so well, and that's made it smooth on me. I've enjoyed kind of diving into the different parts of it. That's something I've said many times that interests me. I love the X's and O's and the coaching on the field, but I enjoy all the other parts of it too. And so there's certainly more to keep track of. There's definitely more things running through your head. I've had to delegate more, like we talked about offensively, but so far, I think everybody's done a great job with it.
So are you yelling at everybody, or is Ruffin yelling at them?
There's always a little bit of yelling on our field, but it's our people, they know what they need to do. They know where they're supposed to be. Everybody's, I think, on the same page.
When you talk about your backup quarterback competition, and what are you looking for out of a backup quarterback?
It's going to be a great competition. Just after this first week, I can tell you that those guys are really playing well. I said it's a new situation. We said the other day, last year it was pretty much set that Baker was going to be the guy, and then with all the transfers that Austin Kendall was going to be the next one. It was, there wasn't much doubt. Where this year it's just a totally new situation. With Austin, with Kyler, with Tanner Schaefer, 3 guys that have had a bunch of reps around here that know what they're doing. It's been fun to see them compete at a high level, and you can feel kind of the difference in their play and their sense of urgency right now versus last year at this time, which has been a positive. So we're looking for the guy that can be the most consistent, that can move the group, that can, when he walks in there, if you hadn't seen us play offensively, you would think he's the starter and he's the guy running the show. And then obviously they've got to execute and do their job too. But that sense of being able to take over and lead the group when it's their time, regardless of the situation, I think is a critical factor.
Speaking of Kyler, how has he handled getting back into the swing of things here these first couple of days?
No, he's been good. I mean, Kyler's like that dog that's sitting on the porch, and then that car runs by and he doesn't have to get up and stretch or anything, then he's full speed right now. I mean, he goes from baseball to football. It's really pretty remarkable what the guy can do athletically. Just to be able to see him transition back in as quickly as he does, he looks like he hadn't missed any time at all, or he looks like he's only been playing one sport.
What do you see in Austin?
Do what?
What kind of dog is he?
A fast one.
In Austin, I mean, just talk about his growth from when he got on campus 15, 16 months ago to now. How much has he grown, and how much will that help him?
Yeah, it's been such a unique situation for him. I mean, coming in, again, when he committed to us, we had 3 other quarterbacks on scholarship, and it was like, hey, you're going to redshirt, this is what we're doing. And the day he shows up, it's him and Baker. That's it. And so he got thrown into the fire early, with not just in some of the games, which he played well when he played last year, but even in practice, just, for a true freshman having to go and become that backup and do such a good job was impressive. And now there's a little bit different kind of air about him right now. He carries himself a little bit differently. He's more confident in what he's doing. He's competing his tail off right now. He's playing a lot better than he did at this time last year. So, but I think that experience last year will benefit him not only in this competition this year, but on down the line too.
Lincoln, I'm curious about this morning. It's the first time you've really been represented as the head coach to the public. You've done the media thing. Did you think about that at all, about meeting the fans as the head coach? Did you sit at home and analyze your signature to make sure it was okay?
No. They put a couple other things on my plate that were a little bit ahead of that. But that part's easy. That part's fun. Our fans are great. And I think it's phenomenal that we do it, primarily around kids. No, it was fun. It was great to see the response from them. And I know it feels like, at least to me, that the response on the outside from our fan base has been nothing but positive. So that's something, that our team very much appreciates.
The last couple of years, I know you've been immersed in the expectations that comes with coaching at a place like this and how important winning is. Do you feel that more as a head coach?
Not yet. Not that I'm not going to, but I don't right now. I feel the same amount that I did as the offensive coordinator. You feel that at this place. You just. I've said it many times, it's not really anything that needs to be said. As a coach, I felt it the first day I walked in the door here. I felt it when I came to interview here. You know about the history, you know about the expectations, and again, I've hit on a lot. I'm more focused on the great opportunity that we all have and what you can accomplish here when you do it the right way.
Did you ever hear anything along the way when you were coming up in the ranks about how to handle just pressure in general, whether it was self-imposed or from a fan base, someone say anything that along the way, or did that come naturally for you in terms of how you compartmentalized it?
No, I think, getting thrown, I think two things. Yes, I have watched other people handle it well, and I don't know if I have, some earth-shattering quote or something really profound that I can give you on it, but the other guys I've been around, I thought handled it well. And then I think that's one of the benefits in that every job I've ever had, I've been quote unquote, thrown in the fire early, whatever you want to call it. So it doesn't, again, it just, believe it or not, it really doesn't feel that new. It really doesn't.
Lincoln, how much do you kind of make notes to yourself, hey, I better go over the defensive side of the field for 10 or 15 minutes during practice? Or, do you chart it out before each of them start? Or?
Yeah, I had to do it day one. I had to kind of remind myself a few times. Now it feels like just part of practice when I do it. But I definitely am strategic about, when's going to, be an okay time for me to leave offensively, and when's a good time for me to be around our defense and special teams. So I think those guys would say they feel me interacting with them and a part of their side of the ball as well.
You're still the offensive coordinator and the quarterbacks coach. Who do you delegate to help you out with that?
A little bit of everybody. The offensive staff, very much. Again, having all those guys, here for the last few years and being able to keep that continuity has allowed me to do that. So each one of our guys have taken on some new things that they weren't doing in the past, especially in regards to just prep for practice and even some things within practice, and they've been great. Our young coaches on offense have also been the same here for the last few years, so they've been able to do that as well. That wouldn't go well in our team meeting. But no, it's been smooth. The offense has continued to be able to work the way that we want it to work, and again, I think I've been able to be, very present in our special teams and defensive drills as well.
How much time have you spent away from over there working plays and working your offense specifically with other, special teams and defense?
I'm with the special teams all the time. If we've got a special teams period going on, I'm going to be there, which it's a little bit more natural of a time to do it, because you don't have many other offense and defensive things going on at that time. And then defensively, I've picked my spots. It varies each day, but finding some time, whether it's in our drills or even in a one-on-one period where I would normally be there, going down to inside to see our front seven, how they're working, spending time with the defensive staff outside of practice, not sitting there critiquing, not like I'm sitting there throwing up 500 new ideas. Those guys know what they're doing, but again, I know I've got to be there to support them and oversee it.
Lincoln, your first year as offensive coordinator, sorry, Jenny. That's all right. Your first year as offensive coordinator took you, and you said this, I think talked about it last year, it took you 4, 5, 6 games before Joe and Samaje both had double-digit carries, where you were actually feeding the ball. Now that you're head coach, do you have somebody who's going to nudge you and remind you, hey, we've got some guys that can run the football? Remind you that, hey, we've got an offensive line that can really open holes, that kind of thing? Or are you going to be more of a, I'm going to throw it when I want to throw it, and I'm going to run it when I want to run it?
Well, I don't see that being much different because I really have never had anybody do that in the first 2 years. Bob was fantastic about, you know, not overburdening you. You know, I think as a head coach, when you put that burden on a play caller, just having, you know, been on that other side of it, it's tough. And so he definitely didn't do that with me. I wouldn't do it with any other play caller, you know, on our team ever. I just don't think that's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to hire good people and trust them to do their job. Not that if you don't see something here and there that you think can help, that you won't mention it. And Bob would certainly do that from time to time. But you know, I can't ever remember a time in the game where maybe we had thrown it 3 times in a row and he would tell me you needed to run it the next time. I mean, never. And that's what allows you to grow and feel open enough to not call what you think he wants you to call, but call what you feel like is the best play or the best defense or the best special teams play possible.
Lincoln, you're almost a week into practice, almost 2 months into being the head coach. Sort of like players have welcome to the whatever moments. Have you had a welcome to being a head coach moment in that time?
That's a good question. You know, it happened so quickly. I mean, probably just the first day, really. I mean, the first day was a wild day. And, yeah, just to go from that meeting with Joe to all of a sudden you're telling the players and, you know, seeing Coach tell the players he's leaving, the press conference, to staff meeting, to recruit calls. I mean, that first day was a good glimpse into, you know, what the life is like, you know, and that you've got to, you know, balance a lot of different things. So after that, though, no, it's again, there's been a lot, and I know I've got a lot to learn, but it hasn't felt overwhelming, and it hasn't felt that different, really.
Still kind of mentoring you, or has he stepped back a little bit?
Oh, he's available. I mean, it's, you know, he's not the kind of guy that's going to sit there and call me every single night. I mean, that's not his personality. He wouldn't do it that way. But he's you know, he's always available for a call. We had a good talk last night, even on the way home. So he's, you know, he's always available for a call. He's made his way out to a few practices. It's always good to hear what he sees, and a lot of times it's just confirming things that you feel like you see. But no, he just wants to be there in any way that I or this program can use him, and I certainly will.
Was it different? You already had some player discipline issues you had to deal with. How different was that now to the guy that really was, I guess, the last call to make that call?
No, that part's different. I mean, it's something that anytime I've had one of my guys offensively that's had any kind of issue, I've been very involved with it. But certainly being that person that makes that final decision or has that final talk or whatever it is, that is different, and that's definitely. It's not a part of the job I shy away from, but it's definitely one of the worst parts of the job too.
Are you allowed to reveal what the punishment is if a cell phone goes off in a team meeting? And is that a Lincoln policy, or is that?
No, that's just a OU football policy. They get it pretty quick. So the great thing is with our leadership, our leaders get to them before I even can, which is how you want it.
How far is that guy running? Running a lap? Running a
More
mile?
than he wants to run right now. Yeah.
Hey, Lincoln, when you talk about delegating, can you delegate to Baker too? I mean, does having a senior quarterback make your life a little bit easier?
I don't think delegating is the right word. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, Baker's a great player. Baker's got a lot of great experience, and there's no doubt. I love having him here, but, you know, he's still a player, you know, and he's still got to go play well, and he's still got to improve, and he's still, you know, got to learn how to play with the guys that we have now in this offense. So, and I don't want to put too much on him. I think maybe at times I did that even last year, and I think Baker would admit maybe even putting too much on himself. I mean, at the end of the day, you still got to go play, you know, and just because you threw for all these yards before, you did this before, that doesn't do anything for this next game. It doesn't matter, and I know it's sometimes people on the outside just, you know, struggle to understand that. It's you've got to be able to go do it again, and so we're trying to keep his focus there.
As good as your offensive line is, or can be maybe, is it going to matter who the running back is as long as they're in there doing the right thing? You know, people are asking about the number of yards you guys lost last year. Is it going to matter who carries the football?
Well, it matters. Yeah, it matters. You're never going to block it up perfect every time. I mean, I don't care how good you are up front, and we do have a chance to be good. But it absolutely matters. You've got to have guys, if you want to run the football well, that can still make things happen when it's not blocked up right. You know, we tell our backs that all the time. If it's not blocked up well, you got to be a guy that can get us a tough, dirty, 2, 3, 4, 5 yard run. If it's blocked up great, you need to be a guy that's going to house it. You need to be a guy that's going to take it the distance, because you don't get that that perfect call and that perfect execution and all that right that often. I mean, it's the chances of it aren't very good, and so you got to have a guys that can capitalize when you do. And I would say our backs have been one of the really bright spots of camp so far. That competition is alive and well. Those guys, I don't see one guy that hasn't stepped up their game from where they were in the spring, and I'm confident about the guys that we're going to have running the football.
They're active in the passing game as well, I presume. The receivers.
Yeah. They, guys aren't going to be able to play here if they're not.
Haven't heard as much about Sutton. Can you tell us a little about him?
Yeah, really explosive. He's healthy. He battled a few minor injuries throughout the spring that were just kind of nagging that held him back. He's in shape. He's healthy. He's back to his just normal, full, explosive self. I think he's more confident in what we're doing scheme-wise. He's got some pop. I mean, he has some true. He's a true kind of change of pace back when you look at the other big guys that we have. So he's a guy that's right in the mix there. I mean, you could take any of those 4 or 5 guys right now and make an argument that they're going to get a lot of opportunities, and he's definitely in the mix.
What about some of those other younger guys? How are they doing? How are they picking things up? Is it still too early?
At running back?
Yeah.
No, they're picking it up well. I mean, I think Trey Sermon has made some really big leaps from spring, specifically on his body. I know we talked about that a lot in spring ball. He's always been a kind of a big, just thick kid, and he looks a little bit different. He was a little bit, the body was a little bit soft coming in the spring, and with Coach Schmidt and our guys throughout the summer, that's not the case anymore. He's quicker, he's faster, he's a little bit more explosive, and again, just kind of like Marcellus, more confident in what we're doing. Kennedy Brooks has showed some potential. He just came in June, so he's the new one of the group, but he's flashed some nice potential as well.
Lincoln, is Austin Seibert back working with the team, or is there
Yes.
a timeline on that?
No, he's here. He's here and kicking well.
Lincoln, a guy that didn't get talked about a bunch is Dimitri Flowers. How do you see his role with the offense? Has it evolved, changed at all from what we've seen in past years?
Yeah, and it's changed a lot, obviously, in the last 2 years. It was a limited role when we started, and he, that first year in 15, he just was playing better and better, and we started playing, with him on the field more and more, and then we got to last year, it was a big part of it. So, yeah, I don't see that going away. He's so valuable. We've said it a lot. He may be one of the most valuable guys that we have offensively for all that he does. I mean, he's such a good receiver. He's always been a smart blocker. He's really started to come into his own as being a physical presence, which I think will be big for him both this year and beyond. He's been a guy that has proven he can carry the ball. I mean, can do so much. So yeah, that position's important for us. We've now been able to build some depth there with Carson Meyer, who's really come along nicely, and then signed Jeremiah Hall, who was here with us this spring. So we're pleased with the depth and think we could do even more with those guys.
Time for 2 more questions.
Brian, given how productive Mark Andrews has been when he catches the ball, it's always seemed like maybe that guy should catch the ball a little more. What would be a good season for him, or the season you want?
No, that's a good question. I mean, he's, the first year he's playing next to a guy that's going to be an all-pro, so it was, do you throw it to Sterling or do you throw it to Mark? And Mark got a lot that year, but we're going to throw it to Sterling quite a bit. And last year, Mark was playing very well early, and then he had the injury. It was a Texas Tech game, I think, had a pretty serious shoulder injury that really sidelined him in the middle of the season. And, Geno Lewis started playing better. But I think we saw some flashes in the bowl game of the guy we feel like he can be, playing explosive. He's always been a good red zone target. I mean, I would think his ratio of catches to touchdowns over his career has got to be up there, within the entire country. So what would a good year be? I don't know that you can define that, but I mean, we expect him to be very productive, a matchup that we can really exploit. I know he and Baker, they're really in sync right now.
50 catches.
Not going to do it.
Last question.
What is
A week ago was the Champs View barbecue, the second time you've had it. Why do you think that's resonated so well with recruits the last couple of years?
It's fun. It's unique. It's not your everyday visit. You know, and then I think just the way that class, you know, handled it 2 years or last year, you know, that 2017 class really, you know, they embraced it. You know, it was a lot of fun. We really didn't know what we were doing. We thought it was a good idea, but we weren't really sure how it was going to go. And then I remember we came in as a staff after and we're like, man, that was awesome, and the kids were awesome. And then I think there's just kind of word of it grew from there, you know. And so we had another great event here last week. You know, I think it's just going to become part of our, you know, calendar. I think it's something that the kids look to, a unique chance to get to build relationships with them and their parents, and kind of show them the lighter side of who we all really are. So yeah, it's a great time. Other than catching a pie in the face, it was a really good time. So yeah, we had a good time.
Thank you.
All right.